Hello everyone, this is the great Lord and Master, Osiron, the Eternal, for another video of the Tree and Jewel. This is going to be what will end up being the third part in an excellent series that show how the true Tree of Life and the Jewel of Creation work together in perfect harmony and synchronicity. The first part, of course, is the mystery of the pentagram. The next one is the video I just made a couple days ago, the Qlipoth, and this will be the third one. This one is titled, from this perspective, The Flaming Sword of Sophia, the Slaying of Yaldabaoth. And but the title is going to be, I think the title for the video is going to be the Kabbalistic Kill Stroke, something like that. Okay, now we see here, this is the true Tree of Life in its inverted root position. This is the Jewel of Creation in its upright position, which is the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. And over here, what you see is the same exact presentation, except there are lines taken out of this, and there's two added. These two are added, but there's lines taken out of this, and it reveals some pretty amazing things. And it also screams the single-digit code. It's screaming aloud that this is indeed correct, and the single-digit code itself verifies it. Okay, now what you see over here are six hexagram shapes, or I'm sorry, 3 hexagram shapes separated into groups. In how this comes into being, I explained in the other video, but on the tree structures, the first 2 worlds here, the numbers are congruent with the element of the pillar. So you have 1 and 3 on the feminine pillar, 2 and 4 on the masculine pillar. Up here you got 3 and 5 on the feminine pillar, and 2 and 4 on the masculine pillar. They're congruent, they're the same. In the middle is where it shifts. The feminine now goes on the masculine pillar, 8 is on the feminine pillar, and down here 6 is on the feminine pillar and 7 is on the masculine. They're crossed, they're inverted. So when you separate these structures following that criteria, it reveals these structures. You got a hexagon shape down here, you have another one up here, and in the middle you see sort of like an unfinished hexagram structure. Now, what you're going to see in the middle of this, and if you also recall, the true Tree of Life, again, is feminine, because the Sephiroth emanate from feminine to masculine. That's why it's feminine, because the emanation of the Sephiroth go from feminine to masculine. The Jewel of Creation is masculine, because the emanation of the Sephiroth go from masculine to feminine. And that's why I call this feminine, and that's why I call this masculine. But if you remember from the videos where I explained how the tarot keys interact with the true Tree of Life, it's actually the first, one of the first videos in this series. And the same thing with the Jewel of Creation. The action pathways on the true Tree of Life have a predominantly masculine presentation, because they go from masculine to feminine. And on the Jewel of Creation, the action pathways go from feminine to masculine, so it's a reverse. That's why that's blue, and that's why this is red. Now if you look, you see I have a masculine triangle here in the middle, and I have a feminine triangle in the center of this. And again, the reason I do that, there's 2 reasons why I do that. One is the action pathways of the true Tree of Life say to do that, because it goes from masculine to feminine. Same thing with the jewel. But the numbers that ring this individual hexagram shape add to 15, which is the devil, and that reduces to 6. So the 6 is a masculine triangle. Up here, the numbers that ring this hexagram shape combine to form 21, which reduces to a 3, but 21 is also the world card in the tarot. So the tarot keys are telling you that this construct is only the physical world. This is the material matrix, the human body, anything that's physical is what this is. And this is being validated by the number that's revealed by the ring up here. And it becomes 21, which is the world, and reduces to a 3, and that's why I put the feminine triangle here. Now, in the middle here, this sort of unfinished aspect, the number total comes to 45, which is again the material numbers. You have the elements, and then the elements plus Kundalini here. And when you add these numbers together, it comes to 45, but which reduces to a 9. So now we're seeing a 3, 9, 6 separation when you combine the true tree of life and the jewel. And it's in that separation, that 3, 9, 6 separation is also a vortex math separation. Those guys who present the vortex math presentations, Marco Rodin and Randy Powell, they say that the 3 and the 6, at least in the material world, is always separated by the 9. So we're seeing vortex math separation. But if you recall from my videos on the pulse of creation, I have 2 of them, and it's excellent. The pulse of creation videos also reveal a 3, 9, 6 presentation when you show that the Fibonacci sequence is the single digit code. Excellent videos if you want to see how those link together. So the Fibonacci sequence is the single digit code. They're the same thing. So we're seeing this here. So the single digit code and by default Fibonacci is telling you that this is the correct sequence for the true tree of life and the jewel. Now, what happens is, you see how this is unfinished? These are a complete hexagram, this is a complete hexagram, this is sort of like in motion here. Well, what happens when you finish this motion and combine them, these 2 spheres join together to become 1, and the 8 and the 5 add to be 13, which reduces to a 4, and the 9 and the 6 join together to become 15, which reduces to a 6. And when you do that, you get this structure here. You got 3 linked hexagram structures. And when you do that, it changes the numbers a little bit, because the true tree of life and the jewel, when you combine them together in the proper way, form 18 spheres, and the number totals for all the Sephiroth add to 81. Well, when the process is finished, you have 16 spheres, and the number total for the Sephiroth now adds to 63. So again, we're seeing the 6-3 presentation show up. And when you do that, it also, you can see clearly what happens is it shows the zodiac and the quadrants of the seasons. So out here I have the houses of the zodiac assigned to each Sephiroth. In the middle is the quadrants, the seasons. Now, right now I have these laid out in a way that is the most congruent. This could change, but right now it's presented in the most congruent way for the element of the sign. So what that means is, on the bottom here you have Aries, which is fire, and it's on the fire triangle. And you have Aries' opposition is Libra on the zodiac, and that is a masculine element of air, and that's on the masculine triangle. The next we have Taurus in Scorpio with its opposition of Scorpio on the feminine triangle. We got this house here on the masculine triangle. Sagittarius is on the masculine triangle, fire. We got Cancer, which is water, on the feminine. Capricorn, its opposition is earth on the feminine. Leo is masculine fire on the masculine. Aquarius is air on the masculine, and then Virgo is earth feminine on the feminine triangle, and its opposition is Pisces, which is water, on the feminine triangle. So they're all congruent elementally with that. And then in the middle, of course, you have the seasons. Now you could also separate that by the house too. You could call these down here the cardinals. You could call the middle the cherubics. And you could call the top one's mutable if you want to do that. So this could change as far as the order of which zodiac house goes with this, but it does do that. And it also changes the numbers in the middle too. Down here we have the masculine triangle, which is the devil, it's 15, which becomes a 6. But after the numbers change, these numbers in this hexagon shape reduce to 14, add to 14, which is temperance. And if you remember from my Osiron Tarot Spiral videos, house 9 is the alleyway from 0 to physical, and the cards in that house are temperance and the devil. So right now the devil is showing in the active aspect of creation from 0 to creation. We see the devil. Once the process is finished and it's joined together and alive, it becomes temperance again, which is the alleyway back to 0. And you'll notice that the world doesn't change. This does not change. This stays 21, and the world up here is 21. Well, we also notice the pillar of Yakin, which represents the idea of the material matrix, electricity, the masculine force, that never changes either. The Sephiroth stay 247, 247, they don't change. And we're seeing confirmation of that with the world, which is what the Kabbalistic tree really is. The world doesn't change, it stays 21 the world, and it stays 21 the world over here. Now, in the middle what happens, the numbers change. So if you add these numbers up, and you keep the spheres using unreduced numbers, the total adds to 56, which is the heart of both the tree and the jewel. You got the heart of the true tree, 5, and the heart of the jewel, which is a 6, and it's 56, and it's showing that. And we also see the heart of each creation at the top or the bottom or the active aspect of the hexagon shape. So we have the heart of the true tree, which is right here, and this interacts with the 8 of the feminine triangle here. And we got the heart of the jewel, which is a 6, and this interacts with the 9 of the triangle that's projected from here. And there's also another interesting part about this. These two numbers are the same. So what that means is the 7 and the 8 add to become 15, which is 6. And the 6 and the 9 also add to become 15, which is a 6. So that's the same. Same thing here. The 6 and the 7 add to become 13, which reduces to a 4. And the 8 and the 5 add to become 13, which reduces to a 4. So these two cross sections add to the same numbers and, of course, reduce to the same numbers. And then when you join them, you get this. Now, what this is another way to look at the structure, because what I did over here, see, there's a difference between this presentation and the one I just made, is this one is showing what's actually going on with the true tree of life and the jewel. We got the, what the Kabbalistic tree looks like inverted is the true tree of life, but the jewel of creation, remember, it doesn't use 10 Sephiroth, it only uses 9. So we're seeing this here, this goes 1 through 9 and it stops. And if you remember, the true tree of life is basically the God principle for us. It's 0, it's what 0 is. This appears to be 0 to us, but it's the force of creation. So, and this ends at 9, and this enters the human body right at the sacral chakra here, and then it goes up, and then consciousness develops when it reaches the top, and then it comes back down with the life lived, and then it goes back to 0 ultimately again. I explained that in the video previous to this. But on that other construct, I had these lines in place, but these don't really exist on this structure because the 10 isn't used. But what it's sort of showing is that because what 10 really is, 10 in the single digit code is a 1 ultimately, because 10 is just a 1. But in the actual code, in the number system, in the 10's group of numbers, 10 represents the 0 space. So the continual 0 through 9 that perpetuates to infinity, 10 is the acknowledgement of that 0 space. So with this jewel of creation, which is the Kabbalistic tree, the 10th Sephiroth would land where the 8 is if it was like that, but it's a 0, so it doesn't get used. But it's showing that the whole message of the true tree of life is the order of creation. You have 0, you acknowledge 0, you become feminine and receptive, and then you act. That's the whole key to this. And by acknowledging 0, so when you acknowledge 0 in this case, it activates the feminine triangle. So we're seeing the underpinning philosophy of the true tree of life is acknowledge 0, become feminine and receptive, and then act. We're seeing this here. There is no line here normally, but when you acknowledge 0, then these pathways can complete and become feminine, and then it creates the life. So we're seeing that. And one more thing about this too, this actually, now in this presentation, is more congruent with the Nordic Yggdrasil than it would otherwise be. Because what we're seeing here is the upper tree structure, and now if you notice, this black line here is the dead center of the two constructs. And they're both the same exact structure as far as this line is concerned. It's the same structure of geometry on this side and the exact thing on this side, and this is the middle line. The only thing that is different is the lines, but the structures themselves are the exact same. And this is actually the phallic aspect penetrating the jewel of creation, because again, if you remember, this is the feminine construct. This is sort of like the relationship to Shakti and Shiva, okay? This is the ultimate feminine construct, but it's acting in a masculine manner, so it becomes Shiva. So God to us, the God force is really a woman, but from our perspective, it appears to be masculine because it's acting in a masculine way, but it's really not. But it's congruent with the Shakti-Shiva relationship, because Shakti is the greater power that Shiva uses in the world, and this is what we're seeing here. So we're seeing the phallus of Shiva penetrate the body in the sacral region of the jewel of creation, okay, in the sacral region, which is ultimately a feminine construct. So the only reason it's masculine is because it's alive and it's in relation to the 0, it's masculine, but ultimately the jewel of creation is a feminine construct. So we're seeing the phallus of Shiva penetrate the world of the living, the material world, to give it life. And we're seeing this here. But now we've got the tree of life here, and on the bottom we have 3 lines coming off here. And the Yggdrasil does have mythology that shows the Yggdrasil, and it has 3 roots. I actually talked to my friend Lokia about this, and they gave me she gave me a description of the actual lore involved with it, and there is a connotation to the true tree of life and the jewel, and we're seeing this here. We see the tree structure and 3 roots coming off it to go below the abyss into the world of the true tree of life. And if you change the grouping of the worlds, because if you remember, each world in the traditional sense reduces to 6, 6, and 6, and down here it's 3, 3, 3, and that adds to 27. But if you change it a little bit and you call this middle line the 4 and the 5, which is Midgard, and my presentations on the Yggdrasil show this to be true too. The 4 and the 5 are the material aspects, the material number elements. So if you call this middle here Midgard, which becomes 9, the upper Sephiroth becomes 6, and the lower ones in this case become 3. And if you can do this, the 6, 7, and 8, if you leave off 9, become 21. So and it forms a fire triangle, right? And we're seeing 21, and it produces this, the 21, the world. So this all meshes perfectly. This is amazing. This is why I'm calling this the Kabbalistic kill stroke, because that's exactly what it does. It not only does it destroy the philosophical perspective of Kabbalism, but as a result, it destroys the worldview of Abrahamism. This is proving the worldview of Abrahamism to be fucking wrong. All my videos do this, but this is the kill stroke. This is the coup de grace for Abrahamism. The Abrahamic philosophy is wrong. Period. The only thing you can do, the only thing they could ever do is say, yeah, you're right, that's what we meant to say. But, you know what I mean? But again, the reason why, the God force is viewed as masculine is the same reason why the sun is viewed as masculine, because it's exerting to us. We are feminine and receptive. We are feminine beings. Our bodies are feminine, and we're receptive of the divine power. And this is what's being said. And that's why it enters in the sacral chakra. And then when it goes up to the top, you have consciousness or illumination, and then you're the alive being. So what this is basically saying is Adam Kadmon is a woman, not a man. And the Adam and Eve of Adam and Eve is a woman and not a man, too. So now, we're going to see a little bit different of a presentation here. This is the same thing as this and this, just presented in a little different way. Now the story of Moses and the burning bush is, in a nutshell, Moses got his information from God via a burning bush, okay? And we're seeing this here. Remember, this is just this. So we're seeing 9 as God, which is the end of the true tree of life in the material world. We're seeing 9 as God, and the above sections is the burning bush. We see the fire triangle, which is here, 1, 2, 3, that adds to 21. We're seeing the fire triangle here, and we're seeing the bush could be analogous to the material world. The bush, a bush is the material world. So we're seeing this here. We're seeing the fire triangle, and then the burning bush is the actual world. We see this here. And if you remember, the numbers 1 through 8 add to 36, okay? Now we're also seeing, with the separation of the structure like this, now the 8 and the 7 become 6, and then this upper hexagram adds to 21, which reduces to a 3. So in this construct, we're seeing a 3-6 separation as well. And then if you add this 6 to the lower construct, it reverses those. Then it's 6 and 3. So it could be either way. It could be either a 3-6 presentation or a 6-3. But the reason I do it this way is because you have God down here, and the 8 and 7 represent duality, okay? And it's also the blood of the body and the material body. So it's sort of showing the process of what's going on with the Osiron Tarot spiral. It shows how, and my video about stargates and shit is about this too, but it shows how the body doesn't become ensouled until the body is healthy enough to receive the soul. So this is what we're seeing here. So we're seeing the God force of 9, the aspect of duality with 7 and 8, and the body elements. And then when it's strong enough to become ensouled, then it becomes the actual body, a living body in the world. So this is also showing why it's so important to have a strong, healthy, and fit body, because the real truth is your level of gnosis and spiritual power will only be as strong as your body is fit, strong, healthy, and clean. Because your body is it's a cathode-anode relationship. Your body needs to be healthy, fit, and strong to receive larger amounts of the divine power. Because if your body isn't fit, isn't healthy, or strong, that's why you see people, as a matter of fact, if you look, you'll notice that a lot of people who claim to be atheists, not all of them, but a lot of them, a lot of people who claim to be atheists are physical wrecks. Their bodies, they don't exercise, they eat like shit, their bodies are a physical wreck. So for them, there is no God because their bodies aren't tuned properly to receive God. Because your body needs to be fit, strong, and healthy to receive God and become aware of it. In most cases, not all cases, but in most cases. So this is it. So, and then we're seeing the burning bush, and we're also seeing the 666 aspect of the material world in this too. The 7 and 8 becomes 6. The heart of the true tree, which is 6, is 6. And then the upper aspects after that combine to 15. When you leave out the 6, it becomes 15, which becomes a 6. So we're seeing 666. It's also showing you that when you just use the upper aspects, leaving out the 6 in this case, it's a mirror of what's going on down here, because these numbers 1 through 5 add to 15 to become the devil, and it's the same thing up here. So it's showing that the world up here In this case, without the 6, is a mirror of what's going on down here. And the life force is the 6, which gives it actual life. Absolutely amazing what's going on with this. So this should be it. Let me just, oh, one more thing. See, I actually had to make notes for this because there's so much going on. One thing about this, if you recall, the number I spliced on the end of my last video, that these two pillars, when you use these two constructs together, when you multiply them, it becomes 2,160, which is 1/12 of the great year, which is the precession of the equinox. Okay? Now, when you do that, but you'll also notice that both of these pillars do that, so it's two things, and there's also two constructs here. So again, we're seeing the opposition aspect of the zodiac. So if you take these two structures and count it as 2, okay, and multiply that by 6, so you have 18 spheres for these two constructs. If you multiply this by 6, that becomes 108 spheres. And that also covers each aspect of the zodiac. So you could say that, just using my birth sign as a relationship, we have the Pisces, and the opposition to Pisces is Virgo. Okay, so you got water and earth, and that's the opposition. So each one of these does this, and you multiply that 6, it becomes 108. Pretty amazing how that works. And keys. Yeah, so this should be about it. Oh, also one thing too, there's some pretty important numbers that do that in this construct. To reach 2,160, to reach that, when you multiply them, it starts out with 1 times 3 is 3, 3 times 6 is 18. Okay, 6 times 8 reveals 144. 8 times 5 reveals 700. 8 times 5 isn't 720, but you keep escalating up. So then the 144 becomes 720, and it finishes to become 2,160. And this happens in 5 steps: 3, 18, 144, 720, and 2,160. All significant and powerful numbers. Over here in the middle pillar, it does it in 3 steps. The first one is 40, the next one is 360, and then the final one is 2,160. So that's how that's doing that. Now what happens, there's a change when you combine these two to reveal this structure. It changes the numbers a little bit. What happens is, when you add them up, when you add up the middle numbers after they change, it becomes 11, which is 2 feminine numbers. If you multiply those same numbers after it's joined, it becomes 24, which reduces to a 6, and is 2 masculine numbers. The congruency of this is just absolutely amazing. This is the coup de grace. There isn't a Kabbalist, living, dead, or whoever will live, or an Abrahamist that could ever stand against this. This shows 100%. This shows absolutely and definitively that the Kabbalistic presentation is a fraud. It's wrong, and it shows that the Abrahamic worldview is wrong. It's false. It's perverted. It's depraved. So now that we know this, we can work together as conscious, enlightened beings and exterminate Abrahamism from our world, because it needs to be. Because our world will never be anything more than a prison until Abrahamism is wiped off the planet. And that means, that means every aspect of Abrahamism too. I mean, because Abrahamism is a cancer. Abrahamism is a cancer that spreads throughout the world, and communism is linked with that inexorably. Because basically Islam and Christianity is just communism with a spiritual twist. That's all it is. It's communism. Christianity and Islam is communism with a spiritual mask. That's all it is. If you look at it, you'll see that's what it is. So that is it. Thank you, and namaste.